Hey, everybody, listen, it's the Spencers.
Hello, hello.
And we are back at it again. We are excited. I hope y'all enjoyed the workout. Didn't you have fun working out last night?
I did early.
I didn't know you could do all that stuff, girls. You made it look easy.
It was.
But I hope that you guys are in better shape and you got some exercises on how to strengthen passion in the bedroom. Man, I'm still doing my list. When I go in the gym, I'm getting my core together. I held my baby up pretty good.
He did. He did.
And you hold me up good too. And I'm not just physically, I'm talking about spiritually, because what we want to talk about today is this. We want to talk about the 5 keys to a strong marriage. And we've got a wonderful marriage ministry event coming up. It's called the March on Marriage. And it's called Love is the Key.
Yes.
Our partners, Pastor Terrell Munger and Lady Tiffany Munger are going to be joining us for part 2, but we want to kind of pave the way for discussion around this wonderful event that's going to take place. And so tonight, that's what we're going to be talking about. And baby, this is for who?
This is for the married couples. And of course, the information that we share with you is for informational purposes only.
And you know what? It's also good information for people who are seriously dating.
Yes.
People who are thinking about getting married. You don't want to wait. What's the old statement? You don't have to get ready when you stay ready.
Right.
So we're trying to help y'all get ready. If you're thinking about a long-term marriage, a lifetime, if you're going to stay married, you might as well enjoy doing it.
Oh, definitely.
And we've been married, 32 years?
It'll be 32 years this year.
And we still together.
Still together.
Thanks be to God. And so listen, get ready. I need y'all to go text some friends, call some friends, tell them that we're about to jump into it on the Naked and Unashamed podcast here on our YouTube channel. We'll see you in a little bit. Again, we're excited about the March on Marriage. It's coming up on March the 15th at Tom Lee Park at 9:30 a.m. We got close to 200 couples.
It's amazing. And you still have time to register. The registration is no charge. The only charge is for your personalized T-shirt.
Hold on, let me see it. Let me turn around.
Okay.
You got the Spencers on the back, and it's going to be your name on the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this will be something you'll be able to wear, like my wife said. Simply go to Eventbrite. Is it Eventbrite?
No.
Go to the New Direction page, the fan page on New Direction Facebook page, and you'll be able to reserve your spot and order your T-shirt. You must get your T-shirt. We're going to be marching from Martyrs Park to Tom Lee Park. We'll have a picnic. We have food trucks.
Some music,
dancing, wedding vow renewals, BYOB. Bring your own blanket. It's going to be amazing. So, babe, love is the key is a theme for this March on Marriage.
Okay.
What are 5 keys? What's the first key to a strong marriage?
The first key to a strong marriage is having that emotional safety and vulnerability. You know, you want to be able to be with your partner and feel safe. Yeah, you know, so you want to be able to have that emotional attunement with your spouse, being able to communicate without judgment or the fear of feeling judgment, because that causes other issues. But emotional safety and physical safety, actually, and vulnerability.
You know, you said something key. You said emotional attunement. Mm-hmm. Dr. John Gottman, noted marriage expert, he says that the death toll of any marriage is when people turn away from each other instead of turning to each other. Genesis 2:25 says, "For this reason, a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife, and they shall be one." There is a leaving and cleaving. A space must be created within your marriage so that you both feel healthy and safe. Because if you don't feel healthy and safe, you're not going to open up.
Oh, no.
Can you describe an environment where it's not safe for somebody to be able to open up and talk?
Oh, when it's a hostile environment, when the conversation continues to escalate, or something becomes a little physical, or somebody becomes irate.
And there's a lot of judgment. When there's judgment in an environment, a spouse may not feel open enough to express what they want in the marriage. And I think a way to diffuse an environment where there's judgment is to refrain from being opinionated about what somebody shares, to hear what that person has to say.
I'm glad you said that. That's a very valid point. But the person that is talking, who they're talking to, their spouse, they need to be able to listen, actively listen, and be in tune with their spouse, so that they're not sitting in judgment thinking whatever this person is saying is judging them. Everyone doesn't have the same language and words, so things are not always going to come across the way that the other spouse needs. But that's where that growth and maturity comes in, where you're learning how to actively communicate with your spouse, how to actively listen without trying to come up with a rebuttal, or finding a new word in something, and then everything goes off on a tangent. So that's where that emotional attunement comes in.
And emotional safety, I think, is not having to tiptoe around on eggshells, thinking that, if I say this, then they're going to do this. I think the way to do that is through love, consistent, loving communication. How are you doing? Open-ended sentence. We learned this with the kids, that you can't say stuff like, "How was your day?" Good. That's not a good environment. But when you ask, "How are you feeling today?" Can you describe an emotion that describes how you're feeling? I want you to know that you're in a safe place. I want you to know that I'm here for you. You lean into that person. Emotional safety and vulnerability. Vulnerability is hard for men. It's hard for men because sometimes we feel like that our spouse is going to come down hard on us if we ask for something we want in the bedroom, or if we talk about something we're struggling with, because men feel like we got to have it all together, that we have to have all the answers. And sometimes women don't need men to have the answers. They just need men to be present. Does it make sense?
It definitely makes sense. Speaking of the vulnerability piece, if the man is trying to be vulnerable, allow your spouse, to be vulnerable. But I think it also comes in how it's communicated. Sometimes the communication is not where it needs to be to even express vulnerability. So again, it goes back to that emotional safety.
What's necessary for vulnerability?
Safety.
How do you create safety?
By actively knowing the other person, being in tune with the other person, being able to communicate with the other person.
Attunement, emotional attunement. You got to be in tune with your spouse. Mm-hmm. How an instrument is tuned before you can play it, y'all got to be in emotional attunement. And that takes practice. Oh my God. Playing an instrument takes practice. Mm-hmm. Talking to your spouse takes practice. Creating a healthy environment takes practice. So that's the first key. The second key is effective communication and conflict resolution. Those kind of bleed over.
Really?
There's some overlap there. But effective communication, we love a book that's called Nonviolent Communication. And what that book teaches is that you should be able to identify what emotion it is that you're feeling whenever there's some conflict, right? You got to be able to say, I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling excited. And that emotion gives a clue to your spouse what is the unmet need behind the emotion. And then another effective communication, help me with this, saying I versus you. Why is that important?
Well, when you're saying you're telling exactly how you feel about it, and you're not placing judgment or trying to, place blame on the other person by saying where that could back a person into a corner where they may think that they're feeling attacked, where you're like, you. But there are particular times when you're trying to explain where you could be effective, especially when you're trying to explain something to your spouse. But again, it all ties back into being that effective communicator. But also when you're communicating with each other, yes, we teach on the nonviolent communication, but also treat each other with grace, because you're not going to remember all the rules on, oh, I can't say this, I can't say that. You have to exhibit some grace with your spouse.
Mm-hmm. Effective communication involves listening to understand. So many times I think we get caught in verbal ping pong in relationships because we're so busy trying to prove that my logic is superior, especially for men. And for women, it's not about being logical. It's about being understood. It's about, do you hear my heart? Do you hear me? Don't just listen to respond. Listen to understand my heart. And I think that's so important for men and women. Did they hear me? Do they understand me? And it's taken us a lot of practice. We're still practicing on how to be able to hear the other person without being defensive. And a lot of times what I try to do is to taste my words before I say anything, repeat back to my spouse. Let me see if I got this right. What I heard you say is blank. And so another thing you've taught me is that you can't talk when you're emotional. Can you expand upon that?
Well, if you're stuck in that emotional loop, sometimes you need to have that cool down period. And if you have a spouse who is like right on you, or what you feeling, that makes you even more emotional. And then for some individuals, you might just want to shut down because so many thoughts are going through your mind and you don't want to say words that you can't take back, because we all suffer from a little bit of anger, but it's on how you deal with the anger in that moment. And your spouse, if you're not able to communicate, hey, let me take a beat because I'm a little frustrated right now. Even if you say that, that spouse needs to step back and like, okay, I'm gonna give you a moment and when you're ready. But the problem has been sometimes a spouse doesn't take that clue and the spouse keeps going in on the particular spouse. Or what if that don't make any sense? So that makes the spouse not want to communicate.
So time out.
Time out, definitely.
Call the time out. You said take a beat. You don't want to beat nobody.
No, I mean, when you say take a beat, I mean, take a breath, take a time out, go, bring your levels down.
I know you might want to put pause on it, but let's take a pause, not PAWS. That's so important. Number 3, you got to be intentional about your romance and physical intimacy. It's not going to happen by osmosis, especially if you're busy. Thank God we've outgrown the small children, the toddler phase and the teenage phase. We survived. We still alive.
I miss it, but I'm glad it's over.
You miss it?
A little bit. Also,
you said it again, a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But, just the other day, we were talking about our kids, our young men were in the house. And I'm like, I love it when we're all here together. But it was a challenge growing up because we had to figure out creative ways to keep our romance alive while trying to raise small children. Now that we're empty nesters, there's still the intentionality that comes with romance, because if you've been together for a long time, there's a tendency to take each other for granted. So what are some ways that you would promote intentionality in romance and physical intimacy?
Well, you were talking about, when the kids were younger, that we had to be creative, and go around that. But also, you may have to schedule your intimacy time. If you're both really busy or tired, then you want to be fully present. There was a lady sitting next to us at a party that we went to the other day, and we were just talking about marriage, and her husband had been married way longer than Stacy and I had been. And she was like, we schedule, to have, sexy time. And I was like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. because there's a season, maybe a season where you have to schedule, or that morning, like, hey, are we going to be able to connect tonight? So there could be so many factors that's going into why there's not any connection, whether there, some unresolved issue, whether there's health issues, whether it could be a lot of external and internal factors.
I think that married couples should have Sherelle intimacy.
Okay, I know you're going to explain. What is that?
Sherelle. You remember the singer Sherelle?
Oh, Sherelle. Okay. It's
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 7 days a week. No, it's unrealistic.
And unrealistic.
And so what we're saying is that with the busy schedules, if both of y'all are working, that means you're probably missing the rhythm on when you can connect, especially if y'all work in different shifts. Mm-hmm. I've seen husbands who drive trucks, and like my sister Samantha and her husband, he leaves the house around 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they talk on the phone, and then he gets back early in the morning when she's getting ready to go to work. So they have to come up with creative ways in order to connect. But I think that it's important that at least 3 times a week that you are physically intimate and spending time with each other. Intentional romance. Listen, there was an old song back in the 80s, no romance without finance, but there ain't no finance without romance. I think men and women need love to keep going. And I'm not just talking about sexual activity. Romance and sexual activity are really kind of distinct. So as a woman, what are some romantic things that you think needs to take place so a woman still feels loved and seen?
Well, there's the thing about knowing your spouse's love language and not putting your particular love language on your spouse. So if your spouse's number one love language is acts of service, and some things that will help her or him, do those acts of service, but make sure that you know your spouse's love language and make sure that you communicate that frequently, because sometimes those as you get older, those top love languages will change. When you're younger, you first get married, you may want, gifts as your number one, or physical touch. It's all on this list, but depending on where it falls, you really need to pay attention.
My wife came to me on Valentine's Day and approached me with her hands behind her back, and she said, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and that you're just fabulous. I just thank the world of you. You mean so much to me. And she gave me some cologne, and I can't say the first word, but Tom Ford makes it, and it's called Book Book Fabulous. And she says, you are Book Book Fabulous. And it just made me feel so good. It was better than a Hallmark card because she articulated from her mouth what she felt about me, and it was just spontaneous. Some of the best moments are not store-bought. Some of the best moments come from the heart. Like when I pulled over and gave you a flower that I picked from the side of the road, or you love it when I run and open up the door for you. All those little things still mean the most, but there must be intentional romance. It does not happen by osmosis.
Intentional and consistent. So just don't do, I gave you flowers
last year
in 2020, and it's a whole 5 years later.
And do something new, sometimes the flowers and the candy and the cards are played out. You got to think outside the box. Love me like you saw me the first time. Flirt with each other. Do those kind of things that you did when you first got together. Number 4, what's the 4th one?
The 4th one is shared purposes and spiritual connection.
Okay.
So, with this is that you have to have a spiritual connection, because if God is not in your relationship, it is not.
It ain't gonna work.
It is not gonna last. It's not gonna work. It's gonna be hard to try to maneuver some of life's challenges.
It's hard, period.
It's hard, period. But if God is not in the center, then it's just makes it that much harder.
I've said this before. I'd rather struggle with God than without God. And I believe it was Jacob, when he wrestled with God all night long, he said, what? I'm not going to let go until you bless me. And marriage, it takes work. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that every day is like a honeymoon. I'd say that probably 90% of our time is sweet. 10% of our time takes intentional effort and communication. You're going to hit some snags. I don't care how long you've been married, you're going to hit some snags. I ask married dating couples all the time, have you had your first argument yet? And they're like, no, we love each other. We're in love. And I said, that's not good. And they look at me like I'm crazy. I said, because you honor doesn't show up until you disagree with each other. Y'all hear what I'm saying? Honor does not show up until y'all are at a stalemate. And that's when you have to figure out, how do I love this person when I don't like them right now? How do I love this person when they're doing something I don't like? And you're going to have those moments. It's part of human nature. But the more you're able to work together and pray together, the more it's going to be easier for you to get to resolution. And God is the key. God is the, what I want to say, the common denominator. That if you learn how to pray with one another, and you're reading the word together, and you're going to worship together, and you're serving together. Let me summarize it. You've got to find something bigger than yourselves to connect to.
That's good.
You got to find something bigger. And Rhonda and I, our bigger thing is marriage, period. We both are so passionate about making marriage work. We often sit back and we look at how many people got married the same time we did, and they're no longer married. 34% of African-American couples are married. They're predicting that that's going to fall to 10%.
Oh, wow.
In about 10 years. So listen to me. What we're trying to do is to save marriages, specifically African-American marriages, because we're African-American and we see how fragile our family situation is. We're talking about the Family Mountain this month at our church. Next week, we'll be talking about the Family Mountain, and Rhonda and I will be sharing some more on that on next Tuesday. But it's important that we are intentional and recognize that there is a divine mandate that God wants us to save families. And families, the first family institution that God created was marriage. And so with that being said, prayer is important for us. Worshiping together is important for us. Doing these workshops and retreats for married couples is important, because Rhonda and I feel we have a spiritual connection. When I first met my wife, I knew that she was a strong Christian, that she'd been raised right. She really helped save me. Yeah. My wife was consistently a strong Christian who went to Bible study, who read her Bible. She came from the Church of Christ background, which is a little bit more conservative than me. And when we came together, her practices and her spiritual disciplines helped to shape how we shaped our family spiritually. So I thank you for that we have that shared and the Bible talks about that. It says, do not be what? Unequally yoked with unbelievers, because one person will be pulling one way and one the other. But when we are connected and pulling in the same direction, it's more than likely that our marriage is going to be stronger because God is in it.
Yes, and you definitely have to have those common goals. You have to sit down and write out, what are our goals for this marriage? What are our goals with our children? What are our goals with our finances? Everything has a goal. So you need to make sure that you're planning those and that your goals align together.
Amen. The last one we want to share with you this evening is playfulness and friendship. Man, I think this is so important. We've had some great times playing together. I mean, from spontaneous chasing each other through the house, throwing water on each other in the shower, to jumping off of 4-story cliffs in Cancun, riding scary rides, Now that we've gotten older, I'm like, baby, you're like, no, I ain't gonna do that. We went to Nigeria.
Oh my God.
And we were on that little bridge, the little rope bridge. And this one right here, I thought she was brave. She's the one that made me jump off a 4-story cliff. But when we got ready to go up on this bridge, she's standing at the bottom like a deer in headlights. I'm like, are you coming? Oh no.
First of all, this bridge was rickety and the Lord was blowing on it. So it's swaying and we're over what I would call the Amazon. And so there was if no safety net. So if you fail, you fail. So you had to hold on to this little bridge, which was yay wide, and there are other people, like 7 people go at a time. So it's moving. So I'm 5'2". So I'm trying to keep in step with Stacy. His stride is much longer and stronger. So I'm holding on to the rope and I'm just looking. I'm like, Lord, thank you for the wind, but can you stop blowing for a minute? Because it was blowing. So it was just too much.
Yes.
So
You were shaking like a coward.
I used to be very, very, very adventurous, jumping off stuff. But in my older years, for whatever reason, that desire and passion to be as adventurous on outdoor stuff, because I'm thinking now, that was 20 years ago. I'm much older and wiser, like, okay, I don't have much more time on this side.
So now that you're getting older and wiser,
Mm-hmm.
how do we keep the curiosity and the playfulness?
We can still keep it. I went over the bridge. It didn't say that I wasn't scared to do it. And after we got on the other side, I was like, thank you, Jesus. So I did it, but I wasn't all giddy, in the process. So there's still that playfulness on that particular. I'm still adventurous, but I'm a little more cautious on outdoor activities. That's it.
I think it's important to keep that playfulness
Mm-hmm.
in your life, right? When we took a trip to Dubai, we were laying in the hotel room. We're like, the mall stays open to 12 midnight. Let's go. And we got up and put our clothes back on, walked to the mall, and it was amazing. It was safe. We had a good time. We rode camels. We went to the tallest building in Dubai. We felt that joint swaying. It's like 2,000 feet up.
It's probably more than
Oh my goodness. It was amazing. But spontaneity is important. And playfulness in the bedroom. Maintain that childlike curiosity. When you were a child, you're like, what does this do? What if I did it this way? And we didn't always make wise decisions, but as an adult, you got to keep that curiosity. Don't get stuck in the rut to where you're still doing the same stuff you did when you got married. Try some stuff you never tried before. Try some positions you never tried before. Try some flavored foods, some tasting. Blindfold each other and be like, you got to tell me what this is. Create some time where you can be playful and curious so you don't get in a rut.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, babe, what does it take? What are the keys to making love last a lifetime?
Well, the key is just summarizing. You have to have that emotional safety, with your spouse. Then you have to also make sure that you're communicating effectively, with your spouse so that everybody in this, your needs are being met, my needs are being met. Then you have to make sure that there's that intentionality in romance. Don't be roadkill, have fun. I make sure that
Don't be roadkill. What's that?
meaning don't just stay in one position.
He be doing his business on me.
Just be spontaneous. And then you have to have that, of course, God is your foundation. You need that shared purpose where you're both built, knowing that God is in the middle and that you're building on something much bigger than the two of you. And the very last one, of course, we said was making sure that you were playful and that you continue. This is my best friend. So you have to be friends in order to be playful all the time and be spontaneous.
Amen. I can say it better. Listen, we want you to get the keys to a healthy, happy, wholesome marriage. And I hope these 5 things helped you out. Part 2, we're coming back with our friends, the Mungers, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the March on Marriage Retreat on March the 15th. There's a QR code right there that they're going to put up there on the screen for you. Take a shot of that screenshot and order your T-shirt today. All right. This is the last day you can order that T-shirt. Go on and order that T-shirt. That is your only cost of admission. We're going to be marching from Martyrs Park to Tom Lee Park, 9:30 a.m. on March the 15th. We got live music. Jay Buck is in the house. You like Jay Hart?
Dude, I like
him. Kicking his leg up. He's like an Al Green and a Prince mixed together. Jay Buck. And then also we got food trucks. BYOB though.
Bring your own blanket.
You got to specify with these people.
Yes.
They have some Uncle Nears and everything. Blankets, BYOB, bring your own blanket. Listen, do us a favor. If you like this podcast, would you like it? Would you share it with some married couples? Would you share it with some seriously dating couples? We want to help everybody to be able to live out their lives as covenant partners and be naked and without shame. Listen, we love you guys. Thank y'all for being on with us. And we'll see y'all again next time on the same channel, same time. See you then.